You know those type of people that it just seems like every time you interact with them, there's conflict. In their life, there's drama, there's conflict, there's anger, there's frustration, all of those things wrapped into one. And it's just sometimes exhausting. I mean, we're supposed to be loving to people, right? And this week at church, I'm going to be talking about loving enemies and stuff. But it just seems like it can be so tiresome because God calls us to love those folks, but sometimes it's really hard to muster up the energy. Do you find yourself getting into a lot of conflicts? And perhaps you're a person who, I want to make sure I always speak truth, and I don't care who it hurts and stuff. And yes, we should always speak truth. So don't get me wrong. I'm never going to advocate against that. But I believe that God also calls us to be peacemakers. Well, I don't only believe that, I know that to be a fact. Um, so I think that we should probably follow Him instead of our own desires. Now, some of us might say, well, I get into a lot of conflict because I am just absolutely passionate about justice. I want justice to be done all around me. Well, that's a good point, I guess. But God calls us to approach situations, scenarios, and events in just a different way than the world around us would approach these events. James, the book of James, chapter 3, verses 17 through 18 says this: But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace, reap a harvest of righteousness. Now, if someone were to be reading this with the wrong attitude, they might look at that as, God is calling me to be a doormat. No, that's not it. Because if you look at it, first of all, it's talking about being, even before peace loving, it's talking about being pure. So I think when it comes to purity, there is a stance that you must take against all kinds of things that the world throws at you. But peace loving, what is this about? Some of us have gone most of our lives with this idea of conflict resolution, diving in, always wanting to make things right in our minds. It's making things right in our minds. That's righteousness, right? We want to make sure that everything goes according to plan, and we want to fight for it. And we use the warring language or battle language and all of that. And there are many, many cases in which that is absolutely appropriate. But God, if for some reason, is telling us to love peace over many different things. You see, conflict can be resolved in a peace-loving sort of way. Sometimes the negotiation doesn't go according to plan, or the conversation isn't according to plan, but even in the resolution or even in the tension, peace can still occur. So God wants us to be those people of peace, and Ephesians tells us to bring unity through the bond of peace. So there's something to that, and we're going to talk about a little bit more of that next week. Have a great rest of the week.